All right, welcome everyone. I'm gonna also, before you do one second, actually, we're gonna go make the Zoom be live also, so you can watch this from the Jew Pro account, the Facebook account, or in our Zoom class right now.
It's hard to hear you with that over your face.
Oh, it's not working.
Okay.
I can't see.
Oops.
That's waiting. Okay. Okay. Welcome everyone. Okay. Welcome. Can everyone hear us okay?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So this here is actually a do-rag, which doubles as a mask. And I happen to really love the do-rag because as a rabbi who is exceedingly athletic, I need something to cover my hair. And the yarmulke will often fall off the head when playing sports like football and basketball. So the do-rag is like a rabbi's dream because you just like, whatever, you put it on your head, is not how it usually is, but you do that. And then you leave the gym if we wouldn't be in isolation, and it could double as a mask. So it's a nice tool, and I highly recommend them. I think you can buy them actually in the King Soopers hair section. One of my students told me actually. So that's pretty cool. Okay, I'm just trying to see if, okay, excellent. So, thank you guys for joining us.
It's great to see you, everyone.
We decided we had so much fun last week, and we really enjoyed spending time with each other. Usually when we teach, it's kind of a drag because we're unable to spend a lot of time. Like she's teaching for like an hour, then so we like miss each other. So I figured we could like spend more time together now by teaching together at the same time.
Yeah. Here we're home. We're both home. We have nowhere else to go. So. So like, if we can sit and we can talk together with you guys also, then what could be better?
Exactly.
Your perm cup is now getting daily use.
So,
okay.
Brian Goldston, if you're watching, thank you. Brian's a great glassmaker.
Handmade,
hit him up. Handmade, local guy, Boulder. Thank you, Brian. Okay. So basically, before we want to talk about last week, we had a lot of fun. We told kind of the story of how we met. We told some insights in relationships and the like. What we want to do now, and honestly, we really enjoy, like I said, doing this together. We're viewing this almost as like a mini like podcast. We're calling it Live from the Bunker with Sara and Danny. This, I guess, technically would be episode 2. And the topic is achieving emotional freedom amid the shackles of Corona. And
I like the drama.
Thank you. We're going to elaborate, on the title a little bit later. But obviously, we're approaching Passover, which I believe is in just about 1 week from tonight. And it's important that, we get ready and we reflect on Passover as well as, what's happening right now.
Can I just point something out?
Yes.
There's on Facebook, it's great to see you guys. There's Frank and Debbie, Sarah, Dimitri, Laura, Tzipora. It's so fun. And I get to watch it because Danny's talking. I see everything popping up on Facebook too.
Beautiful.
So just wanted to say hello to everyone.
Yeah, we love you're live with us. Really fun. What we wanted to just start with actually was basically to dedicate what we learned tonight. There's an idea of when we study together, when we pray together, that can have a merit for people who are not in great shape. And I wanted to just dedicate this tonight. I have a list. And unfortunately, last week, I think we dedicated to a friend of mine who, thank God, is out of the hospital. He's doing well. Unfortunately, since last week, the list has it's gone up to 15 people, from 1 or 2 to 17 people. Yeah. So I'm going to read the names, and God willing, this should be a merit for their continued health and recovery. Yeah. The names that we're learning tonight for, and you can add your own, are Simcha Yasel ben Malka Chana, Rafal David ben Itareva, Eli Yehuda ben Chaya, Avram Yaakov ben Chayaleh, Benyamin Zeb ben Chava, ben Sion ben Masha Yehuda, Shimon Aaron ben Adonecha, Asher Yeshua Levi ben Aliza, ben Sion, Tzvi ben Chaya Yehuda Sester, Avram Yaakov ben Chayaleh, Dina bas Esther, Leah bas Miriam. All those special people who are dear in our hearts should have a full recovery. God willing, very, very soon.
Wait, there's one more. One more, since we even typed this up, is Hadassah Bas Sara.
Amen. Okay. So what I wanted to do is I posted on the Facebook Live thing, and I will try to share this on the Zoom chat as well. I posted Tehillim, and I'll say it, and you can just repeat after me, honestly. But there is an idea that when we are in trouble, when people need healing, that often an effective way that we can pray is to open up the book of Psalms. One way we can pray is to use our own words and to pray for the things we need. Another that we often do is we open up the book of Psalms that King David wrote, Tehillim, and then we daven and we pray. And it's very magical if you ever make your way through it. And you can access the whole thing on Chabad.org. If you make your way through it, you can literally, King David, when he wrote it, it's like he experienced every emotion imaginable. And when we say Tehillim, when we say the book of Psalms, we're tapping into each one of those emotions. So for a moment, I figure we could just read it together. And I'm going to just pull this up as well with the following. We'll just do one, and then I encourage everyone on your own, insert your own names for people, and you can just repeat after me. We'll just do it in English. And again, this is on my live stream on Facebook. So it's just slowly loading. But I'm just going to read in English, and you can say it with me or repeat after me. A song of ascents, I lift my eyes to the mountains, from where will my help come? My help will come from the Lord, maker of heaven and earth. You will not let your foot falter, your guardian does not slumber. Indeed, the guardian of Israel neither slumbers nor sleeps. The Lord is your guardian, the Lord is your protective shade at your right hand. The sun will not harm you by day, nor the moon by night. The Lord will guard you from all evil, he will guard your soul. The Lord will guard you, your going and your coming, from now and for all time. I also included 130 on the Facebook thing, so take a look at that as well. Very beautiful. And hopefully, please God, all of these people among the tens of thousands who are sick will have speedy recoveries. Okay. Now that we discussed, we did that together. It was very special. Again, prayer is a very, very special thing. What I wanted to, what we wanted to discuss tonight is essentially, how can we achieve emotional freedom in these times, these very scary times, these historic times? I'm sure, we're all doing, everyone's doing a little bit different. How are we doing? Maybe some people are thriving, some are okay, some are not so okay, emotionally and physically. And I remember actually, it's just remarkable, our new reality. Last Monday morning, I was working just exclusively downstairs, remotely, and it's just very dark down there. And I came down with with a cold. You can hear it in my voice, and just without the light and being isolated, I started bugging out. I was not feeling great physically and emotionally.
Wait, did you tell your parents about that before?
I think I did. Yeah, Mom and Dad. I think I told you that.
He's fine.
Mom and Dad are here. I'm okay. I have a cold. Thank God. Okay, so essentially, it's I'm sure we're all on our own levels. We got outside today. We took a little walk actually to my parents.
So nice.
We spent we said hello from 20 feet apart, and it was very nice. But we're in new times. We're in unique times, and obviously it's challenging. So we want to discuss tonight ways that hopefully we can achieve an exodus from the shackles, the things that hold us back and scare us and limit us. And I think we wanted to discuss that a little bit tonight.
Yeah, and a lot of it is how are we coping? I guess with any one situation, there's a lot of ways to look at it. And I think that we have a great outlook, a great perspective that's really helping us through, not only just to get through it, but to thrive and to really enjoy every moment of our day-to-day. And on the one hand, like, we'll talk about, like, should we be enjoying ourselves when so many people are suffering? We're gonna get to that and talk about it. But we thought that some of these ideas that are really helping us could be helpful for others as well.
Beautiful. And something just to, it's actually funny, last week, at some point, when I was teaching, I coughed on my hand. And my sister-in-law caught that and froze that image and sent it to me. So I appreciate that. I'm going to try to use my arm. Okay.
But there's no one else here. We're isolated.
Right. So it's like, okay. But anyway, I did want to, I think that we wanted to discuss that obviously next week we said is Passover. And when you think about Passover, it's honestly, I feel like for most of us, it's quite difficult to relate to when you think about it. Why? Because our rabbis teach us that of all the mitzvot, right? Of all the mitzvahs, the things that we do on Passover, we don't eat leavened bread, crackers, breads, etc. We don't have beer. On Passover night, we eat a lot of matzah, the 4 cups of wine.
Not this cup.
Yeah.
You don't want this.
There's a number of mitzvahs that we have. Something that often goes under the radar that the rabbis all talk about is that one of the most important mitzvahs of Passover night is telling over the story of leaving from servitude, leaving from not being free to experiencing the freedom. And that's a big deal. It says in the Haggadah, you're supposed to actually feel like you left Egypt. Like you're literally supposed to feel. That's like how you're, like if you didn't feel at the end of the night like you just left Egypt, then like almost you got to like redo it. You didn't do your job. And that's hard to relate to for most of us, right? Me, the two of us were born in the 80s, right? Hey, Ozik, how are you? That's my old sweet mate. Love that guy. We were born in the 80s, and we've only experienced pretty much awesome times.
Yeah.
Prosperity. Okay, yeah, there was the economic downturn in 2008. There was 9/11, obviously, but like we never could connect to the idea of like not having our freedom. It was hard to relate to. Not having freedom to do whatever we wanted. Whether that was religious freedom, which thank God we have, or any kind of freedom. The freedom to go do whatever you want, whenever you want. We've always been blessed with that abundance of freedom. In this incredible country we live in, our rabbis call it the Medina Shel Chesed, the state and country of kindness. It's been so hard always to relate to. And this year, for the first time in our lives, like it's so powerful to think about being in servitude, to think about having freedom restricted. We're stuck in our homes, and to reflect on that. And then, God willing, to anticipate the redemption, to anticipate the Exodus, when we're free now to move about. And that's going to be quite an experience, reliving that Passover when it's so real for us right now, when we can't do whatever we want. You can't go to your favorite restaurant. You can't go to the store without like worrying, what's going to be. You can't go to work. You can't do all these things. These are like historic, crazy times that will enable us to connect to Passover on just a totally new plane.
Also, just to add to that a little bit, Passover is about freedom. So what is freedom, right? Is freedom the ability to go to the store, to go to the restaurant, or to go out with your friends? Maybe that's part of it. But there's also another freedom is to be free to be able to do higher things also, right? That like with higher intention, right? Like we can't even go to synagogue and practice religious observances as a community, weddings as a community. Like that's also another part of it. Like freedom, a lot of times we say, oh, I'm not free because I can't do what I want. But I mean, that's a whole nother class on Passover, which we're not going to have because Passover is already in almost a week from now. But it's not just about doing what you want. It's about being free from, right? Being free from ourselves. Can you say this? Do you have a more clear way to say it?
No, I think you're saying good, right? To it's incumbent upon us now to reflect on what freedom is in general, and again, in the most literal way, to do whatever we want, but also freedom to define for ourselves what freedom is, and to ask ourselves, to what extent are we free? And I think later we're going to get into ways that even last year maybe we weren't, and what things are we enslaved to?
Yeah.
And,
I'll just give one example I'm thinking of right now. Like, if I'm craving chocolate, right? There's some really good chocolate, which is basically finished now, that Danny brought back from Israel. If I'm craving chocolate and I just keep going to get more chocolate, am I free? No, I'm enslaved to that chocolate. I can't control myself. I'm just going to the chocolate. But freedom is having the ability to be able to say, no, actually, that's not good for me, and that's not what I want, and I'm going to choose. I'm not just going to do it because that's what my desires are telling me to do. Freedom is deeper than that.
Exactly. Beautiful. Yeah. So what we wanted to do now, specifically, as we build it, I guess, is to help us. I feel like a lot of us are feeling a lack of freedom. Again, not only physically,
Hey, Sarah.
but maybe even emotionally. Sometimes maybe we're enslaved to fear, to anxiety, to uncertainty. In the world that we live in now, so there's so much unknown, and one of the greatest, one of the scariest things that I think a person has, to deal with is the unknown. That's one of the great fears a person has, is the unknown. And now I think we're living that more than ever. There's so much unknown. How long is this going to last?
Like, day to day in our lives, we think we have control, right? I think, I'm going to wake up at this time and I'll take the kids to school and I'll go do this and I'll go do that. And I have my day planned out, and I have weeks, months, right? We plan our calendars out because we feel like we're in control of things. And now we're not in control. But even day to day, we're not really in control. It's this illusion that everything day to day follows this order of nature. So it's the same. So we can think we're in control. Because now there's no illusion. Like, something else is running the show. That's not, is it coronavirus? Is it God through coronavirus? It's what's up ponder and really think about.
Yeah. And I think that segues nicely to kind of the next thing we wanted to talk about is really to start listing a couple of things, a couple of ways that we can achieve emotional freedom, during these times. And as Sarah started saying, and I think I gave a class about this a couple of weeks ago, but, one of the most profound ways is to understand, where is this all coming from? How is, what's going on? Where is this coming from? Is it just, a big, random thing that's happening? That's pretty terrifying, right? But we have a concept that we're going to elaborate a little bit more tonight because it's so important, called bitachon.
Yeah. So I was actually just thinking of this because the last time we were really out and about and seeing all of you was on Purim. And Purim,
Rachel and Alex, that was the last time we were out. That was the last time.
Right, we were just together, and Ricky,
yeah.
Yeah. Purim, okay? So there's a mitzvah on Purim. We have to hear the Megillah twice. So the night it starts, and then the next morning, both parts of the one day of Purim, you sit and you listen to the Megillah. And I mean, I don't know, everyone has a different experience, but for me, I try to really pay attention and follow the story, but sometimes it feels like we're not used to sitting and paying attention for even small periods of time, really. Kudos to all of you who are sitting and paying attention, especially when we get to see your faces. It's so nice.
We're going to make it interactive a little bit later, so hang tight. We'll open it up, some feedback.
So it'll be fun too. But so we sit and read the Megillah, and sometimes I don't relate to the story. I know what's going to happen. How many of you, we can raise your hand, read a book again and again, the same book, especially a novel? Can you read a novel more than once? Yeah? Wow, that is amazing. Okay, I cannot do that. Because I know what's going to happen in the end. So why am I going to read it again? I know the characters. Maybe because I feel like we're friends and I want to see them again. But generally, I know the end of the story already. So for the Megillah, I often feel that way. Okay, I know chapter 1, chapter 2, chapter 3, it starts slow and there's all these things going on and it doesn't quite all make sense. And then by the time you get to the end, like the climax though is really building, and Esther is in the palace and she doesn't even want to be there, and then they're gonna kill all the Jews, and what's gonna happen? And they fast for 3 days. I'm like, okay, like, la la la, we know we're gonna be saved in the end. Let's eat. But now I was just thinking about that now because Purim was so recent that now we're living the Megillah. Like, we're in the story. Why is it relevant for us on Purim to have every year? Because I just want to see what they're talking about. Looks like a good conversation. I'm sorry.
Oh, my parents.
Yeah.
My parents are yapping. Mom and Dad, guys, we see you. Okay, we see you. Shh.
So the Megillah is relevant to us because every year, like, we're living the Megillah, and it wasn't, the Megillah itself didn't happen over 1 year. It was a long period of time. So now we're in the story. There's all these little pieces coming together. This is bat, maybe it was a bat in China, and it's spreading over the world, and this and that, and like the story is just building up. And what's interesting is we're just part of the story right now. Like, we don't know what's going to happen in the end. It would be so easy and less interesting if we knew the end of the story and where this was taking us and what changes were going to take place afterwards. And, one of my kids' teachers said, I wonder how this is going to affect the education system afterwards. Because the kids are managing their own time, they're learning at home, like, it's really different. And, for us, we're doing all this online, and we get to see all of you. Like, I would imagine that there'll be a lot more opportunities online like this afterwards also. But the point is that what's the point? Is that we're in the middle of the story. We don't see the end yet. So having a awareness that there's a bigger picture of something that's going on, that it's not just the here and now and what the news says and this and that, but like, even there's something even greater than if you read all the different news articles, which I'm sure many people do, and all the reports. There's something even greater and bigger than that we can't see right now with our little eyes.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
And I want to just kind of elaborate on that, which, this might sound strange, but living in these times, literally where it feels like we're living in the Megillah, we're living in just like a crazy time, and we have no idea where it's going, but you can't deny the absolute, like, it's crazy to even say this, but it's almost like miraculous what's happening.
Yeah.
Okay? And just to flesh this out a little bit, I want you to just like take yourself back like a month and a half ago, maybe 2 months. Where were you? So today it's basically April 1st. Where were you March 1st? Where were you February 15th? Right? What were you doing then? It's, think about it. Think about what life was like. And if I would have told you on February 15th, the following number of things, think about like what you would think, how would you react to me? And even, if I would tell you a month and a half ago that every synagogue on the planet basically will be closed. Right? I remember when the first synagogue closed in Riverdale at the way, way beginning of this. I thought it was crazy. I couldn't even imagine that happening anywhere else. And when
There in Riverdale.
Oh, wow. It was New Rochelle, I'm sorry. New Rochelle it was. But it was a school in Riverdale. When the school, the SAR, a school that we had a bunch of kids from when we were youth directors, when that closed, it was the only school. I'm a teacher at a high school. I thought that would never happen to us. It was crazy. I couldn't believe it. The rabbi of that synagogue wrote a very passionate Facebook post right when he got diagnosed with corona. And it was so hard to imagine a rabbi having this. And now thousands, hundreds have it. It's unbelievable. And, just those things, right? If I would tell you a month and a half ago that every sports league would be closed, March Madness wouldn't happen, basketball would be suspended until who knows when. Again, thank God football seems to be proceeding. The draft is going on as scheduled, thank God.
Really?
Yes.
They do it like...
It'll be like, it'll be different this year. Anyway, if I would tell you basically that the government tells you have to stay home. I saw in New York they're going to start fining you. I think in Denver I saw you might get a $999 fine if you're violating the rules.
Can I just tell you something? We live on Alameda, So in our backyard, I'm sitting outside on the swing and I see all these cars going by. I think like, where are all these cars going? And we were walking today. No, we were walking. Oh, we got back up. Nice. We were walking during rush hour and there were cars on the street. And first I'm like, where are all these cars going? And I'm like, we realize it's rush hour. That this is Denver traffic like 15 years ago. And usually now it's bumper to bumper on Alameda at that time, except for now.
Right.
It's crazy.
Yeah, no, it is crazy. And that's not all. Like now, you can't really fly overseas, right? You can't go to Israel, even if you wanted to. You can't, I've seen domestic flights. It sounds like there's 6, 7 people on them, right? You can't get basic necessities in the grocery store. The economy has tanked, thank God it seems like it's recovering a little bit, but like it's had drops that have like we haven't seen.
I did hear though that Safeway just got a lot of toilet paper if anyone needs.
Okay, awesome. So the point that I'm just making is like, I would tell you February 15th, you cannot go out and eat in your favorite restaurant, like, but by law, right? It wouldn't make any sense. Like we're so obviously living in supernatural times, miraculous times, and because it's more. Dude, you just got. I'm sorry, it's bedtime. Can I get up? Okay, so it's so obvious that we're living in supernatural times that, there's scary times and they're terrifying times and they're sad times, but they're supernatural, like unbelievable times that no one could have actually fathomed, right? Like if you would actually go ahead and
Sorry, that's our family chat. The WhatsApp from our family chat. One of them is popping up on the screen. So there's all this fun back.
Okay. Anyway, but like even if I feel like if you would even like have made a movie about this a year ago, like no one would. It was so crazy you couldn't even believe it.
It's like Armageddon. I remember I read a book like this in high school. I hated it. It was like everything was deserted and these kids had to go to a deserted store to find food, and it was.
Right. It's just like,
spooky.
It's wacky. Right. So essentially if I told you all of this a month and a half ago, you would tell me I'm absolutely crazy and to like leave you alone and to stop like.
It's some conspiracy theory.
Right. And that's exactly like what we would think.
Yeah.
So my point that I'm just trying to make is that, just for starters, is to recognize amid the fear, just the supernatural times that we're living in. I mean, it's almost like in Egypt, we're about to read about all the plagues that happened. It's hard to even fathom.
Yeah.
The whole society shuts down. But like, we're living that. It's crazy and somewhat comforting, actually. Right?
Yeah.
In a strange way.
Why is it comforting? So I think it's comforting because just as the times are so supernatural, like it's not the normal routine of nature. So obviously, God is running the show. Like, it's just so obvious to me that this is all something else. There's something else we're supposed to get out of this. But just like he can create this, he can take care of us also. It just shows his power and his presence in our everyday lives and the effect that he can make, with one little thing. So speaking of which, there's something I was just thinking about, and Kayla and I actually talked a little bit about this, like last time we talked now, which was, I don't know, weeks ago, sadly. Yeah. But, so it's just so interesting to me because Corona is so tiny and you can't see it and you don't even see its effects for so long, right? You don't know for 14 days if you're exposed to it or not. Did you have something
I was
else
going
to
to say that, yeah.
Yeah. So too spiritually. Everything's spiritual. Every spiritual reality, every physical reality has...
I just spilled on myself. I'm sorry.
They said it was a tea, not the wine. Every physical reality has a spiritual parallel, okay? So this physical reality, that you can't see it for so long and you don't see its effects and it's so small, that parallels this reality of we don't understand spiritually. It's so hard for us to really get what are the effects of our actions, right? We could do something, let's take it the positive route. We could do something for someone, like one little act of kindness, and we have no idea that the difference it makes. And it might even continue after your lifetime. Like, we don't even know. Like, it's so powerful, the good and the bad that we can do. And we don't always, right? Like someone could do something nice for someone on the street and then walk in their house and their family has no idea that they even did it, right? Parallel is, oh, they were exposed to corona and no one even knows, okay? And then that could set off something else and something else. And the point is just like, you don't even see the effects of it. And there's so much good and bad that we can do through our actions on a regular basis that it's just like, it's really powerful. Like we get a package from Amazon and we open it outside with gloves and we throw the box in the recycle and then we bring it in and we Lysol it all down. And then even still, we try not to touch it for 3 days. Like why would we do that? It sounds insane because like there's something so small on it that like we just have to be so careful about our actions, right? Or like the mail is sitting in the house because the mailman drops it in the mail slot and it falls onto the floor in the front of our house. And the kids are like, look, here's the mail. It came today. And we're like, don't touch it. Because like we have to be so careful. It's like forcing us to really think about every little thing we do. And I just like, I never had that awareness or appreciation before.
Oh, beautiful. I see there's some awesome questions on Facebook. I want to just make, first of all, just follow up on Sarah's point, then I want to get to some of these really, really great questions. Just along Sarah's point that she just so nicely made is that this tiny little thing, is making such an impact that we can't, and you don't see the effects of its kind of action, so to speak, until later. That truly is something I think that Sarah's saying is that we should think about, that everything that we do, every kindness we do, the impact that makes. And we quite possibly might never ever notice even the impact of it. We might never see it. And this actually is a very cool idea, right? There's an idea of something called a yahrzeit, which unfortunately, usually what happens is on a person, when they have a yahrzeit for a family member, so they commemorate the day that a family member left this world, when their soul left this world. And what they do is they do, a lot happens. They say Kaddish on that day, and now we can't say Kaddish because we don't have minyanim anymore. We don't have synagogue to go to say Kaddish anymore. But the idea of Kaddish is as follows, that when a person leaves this world, their soul gets judged, right? There's a judgment, there's a reckoning that happens. And essentially, the next year, on the day that the anniversary of when they died, they're called for judgment again. So the obvious question is like, once the soul was already judged after they died, why do they keep getting judged again every year after their death? Right? And the answer is that, the result of their actions that they did in their life, it's constantly moving. Meaning they're not in the same place spiritually that they were a year ago. Because whatever they did, the results of that might not have been realized yet, both for good and for bad, right? Okay, guys, we really got to go to bed, okay? For real, all right?
Thanks, guys.
Okay, we love you, but you're going to go to sleep. Okay, so basically, no, sweetheart, you gotta. It's really not. It's really. I'm sorry. Okay, I love you. Okay, everyone's
for
waving,
waving,
but
you're so
it's bedtime. Okay, no, seriously. Okay,
Okay.
we're gonna.
Say goodnight.
Good night.
Okay, thank you. Okay, we're gonna make a little timer for you. 30 seconds. Here, you set a timer.
Okay, 30 seconds and counting.
So it's just like,
The
it's
Apple
so
Watch.
cool, like what you're saying, that like, even when a person passes away, the effects of their actions in the world are still developing, that it's not finished and their merits are changing.
Exactly. So what that means, right, is that if I would go ahead and give tzedakah, right, I would give money to an organization, and that money, that organization, everyone who benefits in the future, every day, every year, the benefit they get comes back to me.
Like
right?
if I give
Because
money,
of my
for
action.
example, the
Timer's over, right?
If I give money, for example, to an organization that helps people learn about Judaism, right?
Yeah.
And then someone comes through the organization and learns about Judaism, and their life is enriched spiritually.
That merit falls back to you, right? And that merit might not be realized right away, and that's the idea. That and it's not just giving money. It could be smiling at someone. You smile for someone, right? If you smile, to another person, and you uplift them, and then they go to do something nice for someone else. There's this chain of incredible things that can happen due to one kindness that you did, and that goes on like forever.
Even on Zoom, if you guys smile, right?
And
Smile.
And the terrifying thing about this is, God forbid, if you do something not so nice, you speak negatively against someone. Unfortunately, it can have the opposite effect, right? So it's a scary thing, but it's an empowering thing as well. So that's just this idea. I think that Sarah just was brought up very nicely about the concept of something which you don't understand its effects for a while. I think that this dreaded virus helps us maybe understand that things that we do, it's like, why would I keep doing good things? Why would I keep doing nice things? No one notices. What's the point? It doesn't help me. Mm-hmm. So you have to get rid of that attitude. That's a dangerous attitude because it's huge what you're doing, and it might not be realized. You might not ever see the results in your lifetime. But we have to believe that it truly does have tremendous power in these little things we're doing. I just want to take a quick pause from where we're going, and just some of your amazing questions. So Sarah asks very, very beautifully. Essentially, I think it was to the comment that just the remarkable nature of the times we're in, and essentially Sarah's asking, like, why would God create something that kills millions of people to make a point? Can you do that without that deadly disease? And honestly, there's no good answer to that. I think the quick answer, the simple answer is we don't know. We do not understand God's ways. We have no idea. I have no idea what he wants from us. I have no idea why. I don't know why precious innocent people are suffering so horribly. We don't know. And I guess my point is, God forbid, not to imply that we do have any knowledge or have any reason why this is happening. We have no understanding whatsoever of why it's happening. My only point, I guess, is to just bask at not in like pumped up excitement, but more in like awe, in like an AWE, right? In the way that the world has just shut down in a supernatural kind of way. So that's my approach to this. Essentially, is that yes, God for sure could do whatever he wants. He could bring us all together without any suffering. And why he's doing this the way he is, I don't know.
I think also it's true. Like, we don't know why, and we don't have definite answers for these things. At the same time, I know something that I pray for a lot is whatever message I'm supposed to get to improve or whatever it is, that it should come in the most loving and gentle way possible. And this is definitely not, everything's loving, but this is not gentle. This is a huge, big deal. And I think sometimes, there's a lot that God wants us to look at our lives, and he wants us to see the good, and he wants us to also see what's hard and to look at it as an opportunity to change and grow. And I don't know, I was just like thinking back a little bit in just this year. Remember just Hanukkah, I remember of being terrified about anti-Semitism, right? And we had a lot of talks in our classes about how do we deal with this anti-Semitism, and are we scared? And, like things were starting to get like just too close to home in that realm. And I would drop my kids off at school, and I would ask God to keep them safe every day. And then right before school closed, I remember sending my kids to school and asking God also to keep them safe. And one was from, anti-Semitic acts, and another was from this disease. But I just I don't know, it's just powerful to think back and to reflect on the year, and not just to be stuck in the here and now, but look at, maybe see another piece of the Megillah that I wasn't looking at before. And really it's a real opportunity for us to change and grow, and to think let's take this seriously. What if God's sending me a message that he wants me to change? What are some things that I could be better at? And I think it's important for us all to look at that. Another approach that some people have is looking at this in the scheme of the Megillah, of the bigger picture, and it must be the Messiah's coming, and soon we're all going to be in Jerusalem with the third temple. And a lot of people are talking that way, but at the same time, what's dangerous about talking that way and actually read this in Mishpacha magazine. I thought this was interesting, is that when we say, oh, it's just part of the bigger picture and this is something that has to happen in the world, then we're excusing ourselves from having to look inside and seeing what can I take from this and how can we change. Like, yeah, it's important to look at how can I get through the situation, but it's not just about getting through. It's how am I going to come out on the other side a better person? And I think that's really important for us to look at this and to take it seriously.
Right. And I think you touched on a point actually addressing Leah's question, who asked, if we think Hashem wants us to learn a specific lesson during this time, or is the lesson dependent upon later reflection? I think maybe the answer is both. I think, to me, one takeaway that I personally take is that we're all so busy. We're all running about. We're all so out there all the time, so busy 100%, that it's almost like we're being sent back inside, to look inward. If nothing else, like, it really sounds like we're meant to, like, take a step back and look inside, look inward.
Yeah, focus on the inside. So external. I think about, actually, remember I was telling you this even like a week or two ago. I used to be like before I do something, I would, like, it would be just like something I would do, right? And now I think, wait, if this is something that I'm doing, am I doing it because of the outside world and this is like what's done? Or am I doing this because this is just what I feel is right? And I really, like, the more we were staying home and not going out, I was just like thinking about like my normal decision making. Like, okay, you got up, and what are you going to wear today, right? Well, if you know you're going to be home all day, and we'll get back to this soon, you could just wear sweatpants all day, right? But if you know you're going out, you're going to dress differently. So, like, even in those kinds of simple decisions, like, am I doing this because this is the perception I want of who I am from the outside world? Or is this the perception I want of myself for me and my family? And it really, like at first it was shocking. Now I'm just more used to it. Now I think, now when I go out, when we went for a walk, I'm like, okay, how do I want the outside world to perceive me? Because I'm so used to now just like looking in and thinking, who am I for myself and for the people that are around me right now?
Beautiful. Beautiful. I think that might be a good segue, but yeah. So I was just thinking to address some of these excellent questions, and there's so much to talk about. You could dedicate, hours and hours to those questions. So to anyone, who asked those questions or otherwise, if you'd like to follow up with us, please reach out. Really tremendous questions. I think what Sarah segued into nicely actually was when she went ahead and maybe we'll do some more questions at the end here, but essentially. Sarah was talking about the sweatpants idea, and I thought, I was speaking to my pops who joined us tonight, and I thought I'd want to do a little interview with him to elaborate on that. Again, we're talking about tonight, we're really trying to talk about ways to, to really reflect on the situation, again, to achieve some sort of emotional freedom. The first thing we basically said is to understand, well, we don't understand reasons, but to understand that this is divinely, that there's something happening. We talked about bitachon, and we talked about this a couple of weeks ago. Bitachon, like, I don't get it, I don't know why, but there is some purpose. We're in the middle of the Megillah story. We don't know how it ends. We pray so hard for everyone who is affected, and but despite that, that recognition that there's something going on. That's kind of, again, the first way. The second way of how to achieve, I guess, emotional, freedom in all this, or to one way, and how he's maneuvering through this. I thought we'd call up my dad to the, we'd call my pops. I'm going to call him in. Dad, please unmute yourself, and I just want to do a little interview, so you can enlighten us in how to maneuver these difficult times, and be, look at the bright side of all this.
Hi, everybody. It's nice to see everyone. Some of you I know. Some I've had dinner with in Las Vegas. Some I've watched play baseball from an early age. And some, Ricky Wedgell, I've known since before you were born. So it's very nice to see all of you and be part of this tonight.
Okay, Dad, thank you. So I wanted to just ask you, like, what are you doing really to stay busy? How are you maneuvering these times. Tell me a little bit about what your day's looking like. In quarantine, obviously, as a senior, you're meant to lay low. What are you doing?
Well, it's been very stressful on me. I thought I might run through a couple things that happened to me in the day. I've decided to use this quarantine time for great introspection and great ability to accomplish things I would normally not do. So I find that I deliberately think about things quite a bit. And the one thing I've decided to grow beard. So it took me quite a detail. I think it looks really nice, but everybody tells me it makes me look old and I should get rid of it.
Just zoom in on Facebook.
It is, I can tell you today, I was standing 10 feet away from my father. I could not tell he had a beard at all. He didn't get the beard growing gene he passed on to me.
But what helps me through these days is something that most people develop over time. In my case, I call it the wolf sleeping gene, that I can doze off under almost any situation. And so what's helped me through these stressful times is that I generally, a day for me looks something like I wake up at 7, eat a half a graham cracker, stretch out on the couch to watch Good Morning America, and the next thing I know, it's 9 o'clock.
So
that's the way we start.
So are you taking a nap after breakfast?
We call it dozing.
Okay.
Yeah, we're catching up on the events that occurred overnight.
Okay.
And then from there, I generally answer emails and actually do something important for work for a couple hours. But during that time, then I go into my deep thought stage as to what I'm going to have for lunch. And so,
What have you been eating lately?
well, today was really good. I had a kosher hot dog and a bun, and potato chips, and a half a brownie, and a glass of Diet Coke. Worked out pretty well.
Nice. And then what?
Then after lunch, during lunch, I generally watch the ABC News about the coronavirus. And I'm generally good for the first 5 minutes of that and the last 5 minutes. And I get my information that way. Then it's time to go for a walk. And so we do that. We go for a walk around Crestmore Park, being very careful of all the people that we see out there that we know not to talk to them, and just to stay 6 feet away. And then we come back and generally have a household chore. Today was setting the cushions on the outdoor furniture. Very important springtime thing. And that took me about 3 days to decide to do that. And then finally it's time to start thinking about dinner. And being the good husband that I am, tonight I made dinner of tomato soup and grilled cheese sandwiches. Very
Beautiful.
tasty.
Beautiful.
Very tasty. And then as I sat down, my lovely wife, Bubby here, had to remind me not to fall asleep before we did this.
So you're averaging, like, you'd say 3 naps a day, pretty much?
Well, somewhere like that. I'm not
And
sure.
and can you tell me about your, what are you wearing every day?
Yeah, that's always a big decision. I've got about 4 pairs of sweatpants. And it's somewhere between the gray ones, the black ones, the other gray ones, or the other black ones.
Okay. Beautiful.
And so I decide, which one is most appropriate for that evening's important activities.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Thank you.
Thanks.
The one thing I would just say to everybody here, and this is a little bit serious, is that I have taken time during the day to reach out to people. That one of the learnings that is pretty common is if you feel bad, try to help somebody else, and that works out. And everybody's in different situations. It's kind of been an interesting thing to me. Some people who I thought had the world by the tail, so to speak, these economic times could be very serious for them. And then other people are working, some are not. Everybody's got their own different stresses with this. So I've been fortunate that as I've grown up in Denver, I've had a number of people I've been friends with my whole life. As people watching this show with each other, I think it's a great opportunity is to reach out and 3 or 4 times, just call somebody to see how they're doing. Everybody's going to say they're doing fine, but at least it's nice to know that you did something to reach out to somebody to try to help them. So I think that's an important thing. I think the other thing is that if I had to be stuck in a house for like a month, I've got the best person to be stuck in the house with.
No.
And so that makes it, that makes it special. I tell everybody to be on their search to find that person for them.
Like father, like son.
Yeah, so that worked out, and I wish everybody a happy Passover, and just get rest and deal with these important things. Again, I'll just say it, several dozings during the day is always good. Keeping up on the news is good. Deciding what to eat is also good.
Great.
And
Thank you.
then reaching out to your kids and grandkids if you have them, which nobody on this list does. But a good pace off to everybody.
Amen. Thank you, Dad.
Thanks.
Thank you. Beautiful. Okay. So, excellent. Thank you, Dad. So, I want to transition now to a second approach. A second approach, essentially, to look at actually, which there's really so much to talk about.
We're skipping ahead a little bit.
We're skipping ahead. I think one thing my dad mentioned very beautifully was do things you love. Now is a good time to do things you love. If you love sleeping, and I guess now's a good time to do that. I love beating my kids in basketball, and I do that every day. And that makes me feel wonderful. I did want to actually, if you guys could just chime in the chat or on Facebook, just tell me, should I let my kids win? Because, the competitor in me, says absolutely not. But more like the Jewish side of me says, the parent, let them boost up their confidence. So I'd appreciate if you could just give me some feedback. Right now, my approach is absolutely not. I will beat them every time, and I have. And it feels great. I see some no's here.
Does that count as the four of you?
That's the four of them for sure.
You all agree no?
Okay. So anyway, but do things you love, because as Sarah pointed out to me earlier today, the world's going crazy. That's obvious. And we don't because of that though, we don't need to do depressing things all day.
Right. It's not like if I do depressing things, it's not like I'm acting in solidarity for all those who are suffering. The people who are suffering don't want you to do depressing things. You should be using your time, right? That's the biggest thing that you could be doing in solidarity is using your time for good and to do those things that you really love to do, because thank God you're able to do that. Exactly. It's kind of a way to see the silver lining is for better or worse, now we have time simply to to do more things that maybe we like, and now would be a time to take advantage of that, to do that, and not to just mope and pout all day about what's happening in this world. I think that that fits into something we were just going to skip over. There's so much good content here. It's hard to fit everything, especially when we're both talking together. It's hard to fit everything into the hour. There's this one verse in Tehillim in Psalms said by King David, and it's really beautiful, the message that we get from it, and I think it ties into this. It's Zeh Hayom Asa Hashem, that this is the day that God made, Nagila v'nismecha bo, that we should rejoice and be happy in it. So it's just such a good reminder that every day is a day that God made. Every day. And this term Nagila, that's a word for joy, it comes from the root of it is hiddenness and being able to rejoice through things that are hidden. So if we look at things that we don't necessarily look at, right? We can walk outside and see the sunshine. We don't even usually appreciate it so much because we're outside running around all day. But now we can go outside and see the sunshine. And Rabbi Riadi is talking about this a little bit for those of you who enjoy Torah anytime. Rabbi Jonathan Riadi. But he's saying what's the cost of the sunshine? How much was the bill last time we got a bill for the sun? Of course not. We just we take it for granted. It's free. It comes. And the blue skies, especially here in Denver, it's just gorgeous. And there's so much that we take for granted that it's time that we look at it. Nagila, we see what's usually hidden to us and we rejoice in it because this is the day that God gave us and we should appreciate it. Appreciate everything, all our gifts.
Beautiful.
In the day.
And I think, as a matter of fact, that what you just said does segue actually into what we wanted to just develop is really the final point of again ways to achieve like an emotional liberation from everything going on, and that is really, just to sum it up, and we'll develop this a little bit, but that is really to be in the moment, right? To live in the moment, in this moment where the sun is shining, and to focus on that and to notice that, and to not be distracted by everything else. And Sarah pointed out a beautiful idea from her Rebbitzin that she listens to also in Tiny Time religiously.
Okay.
You know, share, yeah?
Yeah, I was just looking for the English. Can you find
I don't know what's on
in
30,
here?
okay, but
Yeah, okay. It's from, okay, so this is from a class of hers, and I actually sent this class to a friend who I don't think is watching right now, and she asked me about this one part of the class to explain it to her. And because of that, I'm so grateful that now I remember it, and it means so much more to me, okay? So also from King David in Psalms, Tehillim 30, the 6th verse, I'll just read the Hebrew and the English. Just the first part of it is Ki rega ba'apo chaim birtzono, which the English of that is, for his anger endures but a moment, life results from his favor. Okay, so there's two, in the first half of that verse, there's two clauses. There's a comma in there. The first part is Ki rega apo, which is in a moment of anger, right? Rega, like in Hebrew they say rega, like just hold on a moment, okay? That's a moment. And the apo is in his anger, right? For those of you who know Hebrew grammar, the o is his and the be is in, and then the root is anger. So in his anger, okay? And then right after that is chaim birtzono. Chaim, we all know, l'chaim is life. Birtzono is like in his will, right? Is that how you?
in his desires.
In his desires, yeah. Life results from his favor is how Art Scroll translates it. But there's two ways you can look at this verse. My Rebbitzin Esther Bela Schwartz says, she says, you can look at it that God's anger is in just a moment, and that life results from it, right? Which is a great literal way to look at it. But you can also change the words, because the Hebrew language is so rich. This word be'apo, which means in his anger, apo, the shorish aleph fe, is anger, but it also is af. What's af? Anyone knows? You can point to it. What's af? Thank you. Af is your nose, right? From like head, shoulders, knees, and toes, eyes, ears, mouth, and nose, right? So that's your nose, okay? So chaim birtzono. So she's saying instead, chaim birtzono, who desires life? The person, ki rega ba'apo, who's living in the moment in front of his nose. Meaning, the point is not to just look at, and this comes to our last and final point, I believe, is that it's great to see the news and to see what's going on in the world and to be connected to it. But it's equally important to just appreciate what you have right in front of you, right now, berega, in this moment, right in front of your nose. And if these things are in front of our nose, then we can focus on them and they can bring us joy instead of getting caught up in the world and what's going to be in 2 weeks and what's going to be in a month, and the predictions are it's going to get worse. Well, she says, like, how do you know? No one really knows. You can follow the science and the nature, but this whole thing is supernatural. So, like, God's in charge anyway. So let's just look at what's right in front of us and let's focus on that in the moment. And this has actually been really practical for me because, thank God, with 6 kids home and 5 of them doing homeschooling, even my preschooler has lessons from her teacher and is working on her Haggadah. And it's amazing. I love seeing what they're learning in school. A lot of times they need either a phone to call in to like a teleconference with their teacher and their friends, or they need to watch something on Zoom like we're doing. And they're constantly using different devices throughout the day for their schoolwork. So I'm not on my phone because it's usually being used by one of the kids for school. And so I'm so not plugged in, like I'm so removed. I don't have time to check the news. And this is just one way. I just wanted to add this in. Is that okay? Okay. That I'm just dealing with this personally is like the whole day I'm busy with the kids and taking care of their needs and really trying to make sure that each one of them gets help that they need, gets attention that they need, they get the food they want, and instill some good routines of helping clear the table and clean the house together. But then as soon as they go to bed, which sometimes is smoother than others, as soon as they go to bed, I felt like, okay, now I need to clean the house. And then sometimes I'm like, no, I need to listen to a class and I don't know what to do. So then like 3 nights ago, I cleaned the house. And then 2 nights ago, I listened to a Jewish class to help inspire me. Because I felt like my own bucket was like emptying and then of inspiration. And then I cleaned the house and exercised. But I realized like I need both. I need this balance in my life of taking care of my physicality and taking also care of my spirituality. They're both so important. And I need every night, because that's the only free time I have, to make time for both of those aspects in my life. And that balance, thank God I'm able to take care of others during the majority of the day, and just to have that time to take care of both parts of myself, of my body and my soul needs, has been really helpful.
Beautiful. Yeah. Beautiful. And I think just something that, Sara was, was alluding to is just something that I like to just elaborate just on very briefly, and then we'll call it a night. But again, to focus on like what's right in front of you and your surroundings around you, and to live in the moment. And this is something I always think about actually on Passover, which, even before now, when this lack of freedom is kind of like real for us, I felt for a long time a certain dependence or servitude to my smartphone and my devices. And it's something that, I struggle with still. But a couple years ago, and for some of you who might know this, I've gone on very long, hardcore, like digital detoxes. I've gone to a dumb phone twice. Last year I went, I think, 6 months from Passover. And I specifically took this on Passover in an attempt to essentially free myself from the shackles of the phone that were so connected to it all the time that it's almost addicting, that it's built in a way that it alerts you with a red, alert button to create dopamine so that you have to check it, and we're like, it's like, we're like on a leash to it. A lot of times we don't have the freedom to overcome it, and it removes us from being in the present, from living in the present with what's right in front of you right now. And obviously now I think we probably all suffer from this way more than usual because there's nowhere else to go. You're in home and that's all you have is a screen. So I wanted to just quote myself in a blog post I wrote when I first took this on a few Passovers ago. And I'm going to just read what I wrote. So I used to write a blog back when people would read blogs before people grew tired of reading and they could watch a video. But I used to write a blog. Check it out. Rabbi, I forgot what it's called even. But I always wanted a diary, so I called the blog Henry. I just like the name Henry, so I called my blog Henry. Dear Henry, it's 3:52 a.m. on the 4th day of Passover, and everyone in my home is peacefully sleeping, but not me. Because like my ancestors over 3,000 years ago before me, tomorrow on Passover, I will be going on my own exodus. I've written about it many times, spoken about it at length, but tomorrow I will finally unshackle myself from the brutal grip of my smartphone, and I feel so excited and so liberated. I cannot sleep. A few weeks ago, I was traveling by airplane, and naturally, when people travel, they wait in the airport for their flights. Usually, I pass the time on Facebook, Twitter, or ESPN. But that particular day, I held myself back, and I watched everyone around me, and what I saw was scary. Every travel companion, every single person sitting across from me was glued to their cell phone. No one was talking to their travel companion. Everyone sitting silently with their sole focus on their smartphones. I want my family to know how much I love them, care about them, and enjoy spending time with them. I want my children to be thoughtful, creative, and clever. What message does it give, however, when while tucking in my children and I am simultaneously reading an email or an article about the Broncos? What message does it give as my son is reading to me some verses from the Torah that I occasionally glance down at my phone? What is the message I am passing to my 3-year-old son that while I am pushing him on the swing, I am also busily reading about the happenings of my Facebook friends, hundreds of whom I have not spoken to in over 10 years? Does that show my children how much I love them and value spending time with them? Or does it, God forbid, give the message that I love being with them as long as I don't have to abandon my smartphone in the process? Whew. As soon as I finish this piece, I will travel to Verizon, having the courage to do something I've longed to do for years, downgrade for the sake of an upgrade. In a few short days, we will be reading the gorgeous book written by King Solomon, Song of Songs. In that beautiful book, we say about ourselves, I am sleeping, but my heart is awake, etc. We read this last week. Okay, so my point is, why did I read all that? It's very, very good writing.
Very dramatic.
Very dramatic, very good writing.
In your own diary, you can have whatever accent you want.
Yes, and I was definitely British. So essentially, the point that I'm just making from reading that is that, you know, one thing that we can and should do to achieve emotional freedom in this time is to be more in the moment. And that means, yes, put away the phone for a little bit. Yeah, obviously we need it. And for sure, if you have someone who's not well, God forbid, you know, have it, you know, around so it's accessible. But we need to live in the moment right now. We need to experience the freedom that entails, you know, to be with ourselves, to be with anyone who's with us. You know, to perhaps even pick up the phone and call people, but don't have that intense connection that, you know, being just, you know, bound to the cell phone. And, you know, my grandfather says he should live and be well. He's 89. He always says that he's like, Danny, appreciate your youth. You know, and I'm not a young man anymore, but he said, you know, appreciate your youth, because before you know it, you're 80, 85 like I am in your life. You're like, where did it go? And Saba never really had a smartphone until he was in his 80s, right? So here's a guy who didn't waste, you know, loads of time on the phone. There's a very scary study by Reebok that says people will spend 44% of their life, 10,625 days, or 30 years of their life in front of a screen. That's scary. And Saba didn't do that. And he's telling me how fast life went. So for us, how much more so is that a real fear? Right. And now is the time to focus on the present, what's in front of us, and to be dialed in and connected to our surroundings, to our thoughts, to who we are. Look inward, you know, and to reflect upon all of that. Now more than ever, now in Passover, I believe that really is something powerful to think about. So just a couple practical, thank you. A couple practical takeaways. I'll turn it over, then we'll call it a night. You know, something a buddy of mine, a good friend, he reached out, and we're texting throughout the day just about the horrible news that we keep seeing, right? We keep seeing this horrible news all day. And I told him, I'm like, why don't we try to go from 4 o'clock till 8 o'clock at night and just turn it off? Turn the phone off. Go for a walk, meditate, be mindful, do anything, read a book, right? But turn it off. So I think if anyone, please God, if you don't have family members who are ill, that you might be needed urgently, like I really recommend that. 4 hours a day, 4 to 8, turn it off. Maybe try going to bed without it by your side. Maybe first thing you do in the morning, don't look at it, right? Maybe give yourself 10 minutes, right? Maybe on Shabbos this coming week. You know, it's so magical. You know, so many people who are blessed, you know, to celebrate Shabbos on a regular basis, even now, where it's so strange because it's like every day is Shabbos in the sense that we're home, you know, but Shabbos is so unique, being cut off from it all, right? Try it, you know, just try it. If not for maybe the whole night, maybe, you know, try the whole day, a couple hours, whatever works for you. But I'm telling you, it's magical. And I don't know, I'm thinking about what I can do. If Verizon would be open and I was okay going out and everything, which I'm not, I think I would do this. I would go back to the dumb phone for a little bit. I don't know what to do now. If anyone triple dog dares me, maybe I could try to just have it turned off the whole time. You know, the whole Pesach, the whole 8 days at least. That would be cool. So if anyone triple dog dares me and anyone seconds or thirds that, maybe I would do it.
I see some people.
I see some hands up. Okay. Let me know if you triple dog dare me. But you know, yeah, I can be reached. You know, we have a landline. You know, the family.
It doesn't always work, but.
But I think it's so important. And these are, again, just some thoughts. So, essentially with the onslaught of depressing news 24/7, I'm not a psychologist and I don't know this for sure, but I imagine that worrying excessively about things that we have no control over, it can't be healthy for us. And exercising the freedom to liberate ourselves from that and be like, I'm not going to be controlled by this.
To make that decision.
Right.
To be able to decide that.
Exactly. I think that's the case.
Yeah.
So.
I have one other idea.
Yeah, for sure. And then I think we might get kicked off the Zoom soon because there's a Daf Yomi class. Is it 9:30 or 9:15? I don't remember.
I don't know. It's already 9.
But we're gonna wrap it up.
Okay.
Thank you all for.
So we may have one more minute or more.
Yeah.
But this idea of Seder with Pesach, Seder that we're about to have in a little over a week means order. And I think it brings out this point that there's an order to the world, that it's not just random. And maybe part of the reason we're so busy checking our phones for the news is because we're looking for this pattern. We're looking to understand, like, something to hold on to see that it's not random, all the events that happen in the world. And if we can instill it in ourselves, this idea that no, that it's not, and there's an order to everything, then maybe that's just one way to help us let go of searching for that in that security in the news.
Right. That's beautiful. And I would just add one final point, which is order. I feel like, honestly, a way to achieve emotional freedom and well-being is to have order in our day. For so many of us, our days are now just a blob. It's just a big blur, right? To have order. Like my dad has that regimented schedule of nap, hot dog, nap, or whatever it is, right? And we do this before bed now. I make myself a schedule and you stick to it. And it's so liberating. So I think having a Seder, having an order, I believe is a big deal and something that we should do. So, so I think that's about it, right?
Yeah.
Thank you guys for tuning in.
It's great to see you.
We have some exciting stuff coming up. Stay tuned. And again, hopefully we can achieve contentment and well-being emotionally and physically. And we should pray for everyone in need. And please God.
Do you have upcoming Thursday night to announce?
It seems like we're going to have a Thursday night class with a guest speaker from New York, Rabbi Hadjiaf. We're finalizing the topic.
He's the author of a book that I've learned with some of you. Jew Got Questions and Will Jew Marry Me? So he's the author of those famous titles. We might have him join us. And then later Thursday night at 10, if you're still awake then, if you know me, that's my prime time. I'll be doing also a short class about mitzvos. Should be interesting.
Beautiful.
Bye.
Bye, everybody. Be safe.
Take care.
Thanks for tuning in.
Bye.
We'll see you later.
Bye. Keep in touch.